welcome to my video on Christmas value PC builds. So this will be a walkthrough of different configurations that pose real good value at the time. The date today is 12/22/23, so these right around Christmas 2023, and here's some different uh, builds based on different budgets that I'd recommend. We'll start off with the under $600 budget. So this will be more of a 1080p type build. This is a nice all new part PC with a little bit of growth potential, but it will be limited. So we started off with the 12100F. Not a great CPU for anything other than gaming and browsing the internet, general PC stuff, but if all you're going to do is general web, watch YouTube, play video games, it's more than adequate. 4 cores, 8 threads, nice modern PC. Uh, it comes with a cooler. You could save $20 off this build price by using the stock cooler that comes with it. For a little extra cooling and better looks, we can slap this. This is a ID Cooling SE 214 XT. It's an $18 cooler. It's a great little air cooler for lower level processors. Obviously, you're not going to cool a 14900K with it, but anything below, say, a 13400, 12400, 12100, 13100, those kind of i5, i3 type builds, this would be more than adequate. Might be a little pushing it if you're getting into like a 13600K, especially if you're going to overclock and stuff. That's might be pushing it for that, but anything less than that, and even if you're not going to overclock it, would actually work. I recommend using a small micro ATX, and we're looking at about a $90 motherboard. It's a DDR4 version, so we can keep the budget down. Intel 12th, 13th, and 14th gen, both depending on the motherboard. It's motherboard dependent on whether it's DDR4 or DDR5. This is a DDR4 board. You can save some money once you start getting into the higher tier stuff. If you're going to buy a 13600K or higher, I'd recommend going with DDR5. You're kind of wasting your money buying DDR4, but for this level of processor, this RAM is more than adequate for a 13 or a 12100. Like I said, it's a decent little gaming, especially for anything 6650 XT or under. This processor is more than adequate for. Uh, you can also probably get away with a 13400 later on if you want to upgrade to like an i5. You could probably just swap it out. You could list this on eBay or Facebook Market and get 50-60 bucks for it used, so you could offset your costs when it comes time to upgrade. Went with a cheap drive. This one doesn't have, I don't believe this one has DRAM. You can move up to the MP34 for about $5 or $6 more if you want DRAM, a little bit better performance. But like I said, we're trying to keep the budget down. 6600, this is probably the cheapest new card you can find. You can occasionally get the Intel cards, the ARC cards, the 750 and the ARC 770, cheap at a lower price. But for a new build, unless you're just wanting to tinker with it, I'm still not quite convinced that Intel is the way to go. I would stick with either a used NVIDIA card, or if you want to buy new, the 6600. You can buy some really good for around $200. You can find, say, a 3060 Ti, which will beat this if you're willing to go used. Step up to about 250, and you can find at that price range. If you hunt long enough, you can find used 3070s at that price. Too much for this CPU, but if you got like a 3060 for around $200 or 3060 Ti, 3060 Ti is going to outdo this, and like I said, you can sometimes find them around $200, $225 on the used market. Then just went with the cheapest case that I could find, or one of the cheaper ones. With the promo code, it's around $40. And then a cheap power supply by MSI. It's a 550 watt with, for this hardware, is more than enough, $50. So we end up with basically a $570 build. With tax, you're probably going to be around 580, 590, depending on where you live, but under $600, brand new computer will play anything at 1080p. We can step up if we want to move up to another tier. We're going to be around $100 more, so to being at the 570, we're going to end up at 676. This moves up to a 12600K, which for 155 bucks is a good price. Stuck with same motherboard, same RAM, same cooler, same drive, but instead this time we bumped up the graphics card. We spent about $50 more and went to a 6650 XT. So this will give you low performance in 1440p and high 1080p gaming. Same case, same power supply. So this is basically an upgrade in video card and processor. So this is more of a 1080p high refresh rate gaming. If you wanted to do AMD, same price range, we're right around, it's about 30 bucks more, but we're moving up to a board that has, it's $30 more, but with this board you're going to get built-in Wi-Fi. The other ones do not have Wi-Fi, so you'll have to buy either a USB dongle or put in a Wi-Fi card. This one includes Wi-Fi, same cooler, same processor. If you run this cooler on this processor, I'd recommend doing the PBO all-core negative this one I'd probably do a negative 20 all-core in the BIOS when you set that up, so it'll run a little bit cooler. Moved up to 36 RAM from the 3200 to the 36 because this processor will like that RAM a little bit better. And we moved up to the actually same stuff. So same video card. So the big difference is this is it's going to have basically Wi-Fi and slightly faster than this setup. So this setup is going to be ever so slightly faster than this one. They're pretty close, and this is probably about where I would tap out, around this price point, around $700. Anything more than that, and you want to start thinking about newer platforms. The thing with these two builds, these Intel builds because they're DDR4, not DDR5, and the motherboard's on there, yes, technically you could drop a 13900K or a 14900K onto this board, but the VRMs on this board are not adequate for that level of processor, and obviously the cooling's nowhere. So your upgrade path, although technically you have one on here, um, I really wouldn't go much more than a 12600. So if I'm going to invest more in the CPU, I'm getting a better motherboard. You probably, especially on the Intel side, anything faster than this, when you start to spend more than 150 bucks, you really need to think about moving up to the Z boards. You can overclock RAM on the B series boards on Intel, but you can't overclock your processors. So when you start to spend 13700K, 13900K money, you're paying for unlocked processors. So you really want boards that are unlocked for overclocking, and you also want better VRMs, because these will start to limit, the VRMs on this will start to limit higher end chips. Perfectly adequate for this level of processor, but anything above that, you're probably going to run into issues with the VRMs not being good enough. So just something to think about. Um, yes, you could do this whole setup. You could put a 5800X 3D on there, but if you're spending that kind of money, because that processor's, the 5800X is way overpriced. It's $300 now. The 5800X 3D, although it is faster than this processor, when you're spending that much money, you really should be going to the AM5, because a 7800X 3D is only a $350 chip, so it's $50 more, but it's way more modern, a, a platform that'll upgrade. This really has no upgrade path. You build this and you could probably bump this up instead of ending at $700. Like if you were doing a max build up to like around $900, you could move to a 6800 XT. You can buy those for about 450 right now, but a 6800 XT is about as most of expensive graphics card, or the new 7700 XT or 7800 XT. That's the that's the max you would want to put on this processor. Um, you can't really go any higher. This processor will start to bottleneck the crap out of anything faster video card wise. So if you're building under $1,000, you could use this build with, like, say a 6800 XT for about $450, and that would make sense, especially if you're going to build it and plan on never touching it. So $900, use it until you're done with it, and you're not worried about upgrading them other than maybe throwing some additional storage in here. Then this build might make sense. But anything above that, you really should start thinking about a whole different direction, and stay away from AM4. AM4 is pretty much a dead platform, but it's still, for $177, that's a great processor for mid-range builds, and especially if you're a person that's going to build it and leave it and just totally rebuild a whole brand new system from scratch, then this might make sense. But if you are the type of person that's going to 6 months from now want to drop a better processor, drop a better graphics card, when you start to do those kind of things, I would stay away from AM4. Okay, now we're moving up to AM5. Uh, this processor comes with a cooler, but I included one so you could save 20 bucks off this build. The X does not have a cooler, but the 7600 does come with the stock Wraith Prism. But I would recommend going with this box cooler. It's going to be better than the cooler that comes with it, and it's only $18. Got a little bit of RGB on it. Went with a B650M Pro Wi-Fi micro ATX board. It's got OK VRMs, comes with Wi-Fi, and it's 140 bucks. It's the micro ATX form factor. You can throw it in a H18 case. I always recommend when you're going to AM4, spend the money, get the better RAM. 6000 CL30 is going to give you SK Hynix. I've got a video that kind of talks about overclocking this RAM. You can look. There's a YouTube site called BuildZoid. He has a couple tutorials on overclocking RAM. But spend an extra 20 or 25 bucks and get SK Hynix RAM. 6000 CL30 RAM will give you SK Hynix. So yeah, that's what I'd recommend. It's worth the upcharge. Moved up to the 34 MP34 here. It's about $10 cheaper than the 33, or more expensive, I should say, than the 33. The 33 is $10 cheaper, but this drive has DRAM. It's a better drive. You might ask why I didn't go with a Gen 4. I mean, if you find a decently priced Gen 4 drive, you could slap a 1 terabyte Gen 4 drive in here. But really, this MP34 is not a bad drive, and you're probably, unless you're doing a lot of file swapping and things like that, for general computer use, most people can't tell the difference. So you can save some money here. It's perfectly fine. We moved up to the 1440p class here. We're at a $300. This is the cheapest 1440p card that you can find out there. You are starting to see the 7700 XT go on sale for $400 or less. If you can catch that, that's a good card at under $400. Anything over $400, I would not do the 7700 XT. That would be something I'd wait on. I anticipate sometime in the second week of January when the supers drop, I'd be willing to bet AMD is going to start to discount their cards. So you might see some AMD price drops after January. This is the case that I use, is the Thermaltake Versa H18. It's a decent case. I added some fans here because it doesn't come with fans. It's a nice little micro ATX case. It'll fit up to a 280 mil radiator in the front. I believe now the top can put a single fan in the top, but to be honest with you, I would use this for a cheap air-cooled build. I wouldn't use this for water cooling. There's better cases for water cooling, but if you're going to use like an air cooler and throw some fans in the front, maybe one in the back or on the top, this is a great little $50 case. $60 is a little pushing it, but this case often goes on sale for $50 or less. So at around the $50 price point, it's a decent looking case with OK airflow. You can pretty much throw any mesh front micro tower that you think looks good in the $50 price range. You can buy these Thermalright fans for a 3-pack for $13.59. So great little RGB fans for doing cheap builds. They work decent. They look decent, and they're cheap. They're dirt cheap. For the power supply, I went with an 850 watt. So if you're going to move up to a newer upgradable platform, which this can stick with you for years because they're probably going to support this past 2025. So you'll be able to throw a 8000 or 9000 series chip in this in 4 or 5 years. You'll be able to get one more upgrade cycle out of this platform, especially if you buy decent RAM that you can overclock. You got a motherboard that you can just update the BIOS and drop, the 8000 or maybe even the 9000 series chips in 3 or 4 years will drop right into this motherboard. So that's the advantage of going with this platform. We're under $1,000, we're 1440p, and we have a solid base for upgrades in the future. Just wanted to point it out, if you live near a micro center, you could switch to an ATX case, put everything except for the RAM, motherboard, and CPU that I just showed for $400. $500 gives you a 7800X3D. Going back to the previous build with the 5700X, you could slap this in here for $300. It's a 5600X3D. That's cheaper than this build. So this is let's see, basically 200, so that's about 260 bucks. So for about $20 or $30 more, if you live near a micro center, you could take all these parts and exchange it with these and get a lot more gaming performance and be able to upgrade video card and everything else will run good with this. All right, last two builds. Now we're in the $1,425 price range. This moves up to the 7800X3D. We've got a Thermalright. This is a great cooler, 360 mil radiator. Will keep this perfectly cool. Same kit of RAM. Threw the fans in there and went with the Corsair for 80 bucks. This is a great case. Throw some fans in it. Right now it's $80. You put $15 fans, so for under $100 you get an awesome case. This is a great case to build in. Throw some fans in there. Awesome. So this is a awesome 1440p build. Pretty much this will game high refresh rate 1440p all day long. The processor will last you. You could swap this out. You could sell this later on if you decide that you wanted to move up all the way to a 7900 XTX or whatever. You could use this whole build right here and just swap out the video card to whatever the latest greatest card is. But this build is $425.47. Great setup. Would highly recommend if you were into 1440p gaming and wanted fast refresh rate competitive gaming. This build is all you need. And then finally, top tier build under $2,000. X3D, same cooler. This time the MSI 650 Gaming Plus Wi-Fi motherboard. You could use the 650 MSI B650P Wi-Fi board. The previous board could interchange with this. This one's only a few dollars more. Same speed of RAM, but we moved up to 64 gigabytes. Went from a 1 terabyte all the way to a 4 terabyte drive. Moved the card up to a 7900 XT. Went with the Masterbox TD500 Cooler Master case and the EVGA 850 power supply. So this is a premium build, premium high refresh rate, competitive 1440p build right here. And still under $2,000. So, all right, well that's going to conclude my build recommendations for Christmas from budget all the way to premium builds. Thank you for watching. If you like this content, please subscribe. Look for more videos. If you don't like the comment, leave some, or don't like the content, please leave some comments. Let me know what you want to change, what you like, what you don't like, any suggestions. I'm open to hear them. So, thank you for your time and have a good day.